A second chance at a happily ever after came for a widow and widower from Wisconsin when they met after both having lost their spouses in sudden, tragic circumstances. Steve met his first wife, Wendy, at Menasha High School in Wisconsin, where he was a senior and she was a junior. They had a class together. They started to date right at the end of his high school career, but just for a few months. After graduating, Steve went off to school at the University of Wisconsin, while she stayed to finish high school. Later, Wendy went to a school to become a nurse. For the next 5 years, the couple managed to have a long-distance relationship. During this time, Steve was seduced by the college party lifestyle and was involved with drugs and drinking. That was not something Wendy was into. It damaged his relationships, affected his school, and he started to get physical injuries from drinking. At some point, he had surgery, and by God's grace, it could have been much worse. Despite all this, Wendy never gave up on her love and was by Steve's side. "I don't understand to this day why she stayed with me, but she did," Steve said. "She was just a very loving, honest person." But Steve knew that something had to change in his life. "I was 22 years old, in my last year of college. I was very hungover and was all alone in my car in the middle of the night," Steve recalled. "I felt the presence of God strongly, physically, in a way that I could not explain. It changed me. I stopped drinking, stopped doing drugs. I asked Wendy to marry me 2 weeks later." During their 13-year marriage, the couple had 4 sons: Liam, now 16, Jack, 15, Silas, 12, and Judah, 8. Steve had various jobs in the copper mill, where he is now a production manager. Wendy worked as a part-time nurse so that she could stay home with the kids. She used her skills to help her friends stay healthy, and when she and Steve decided their family was complete, they began writing a book together. That's when tragedy struck. "I remember the last date I went on with her, just talking about the future," Steve said. 5 days after, she was gone. On March 16, 2017, Wendy began experiencing heart palpitations. She wasn't worried, as she'd had them before, but Steve took her to the doctor, where she was fitted with a heart monitor. It was a regular night, and Steve went to sleep an hour earlier than Wendy. However, an hour later, Steve woke up to hear his wife gasping for breath beside him. He tried to wake her up. He shook her and yelled her name, and she was totally unresponsive. So he called 911 and performed CPR on her while waiting for the paramedics. When they arrived, the sheriff came too. They all came to his house and tried to revive her, administered a shock to her heart, and they couldn't revive her. Doctors managed to restart Wendy's heart at the hospital and placed her on a ventilator, but her blood pressure deteriorated. The cardiac surgeon advised against another resuscitation, but Steve insisted. He believed God could still heal his wife. The entire family prayed for a miracle, but Wendy passed away the very next day. Steve didn't know how to tell his children that their mother had died. After a few months, he discovered that Wendy had died from sarcoidosis, an abnormal collection of inflammatory cells in multiple organs throughout her body. Nobody had known Wendy was sick. Luckily, their children tested negative for the disease. Coping with the grief, Steve said, "All of a sudden, being a single dad and raising 4 young boys was challenging. But I'm thankful God gave me the kids I have, especially during that time, because they kept driving me forward." Steve dragged his boys' mattresses into one bedroom so that they could all sleep together and ask some tough questions to each other, such as, "Where is Mom now?" and "How did God let this happen?" During this time, there was an outpouring of support from the community as people prepared meals for the family, gave the children haircuts, and sent cards and messages stating that they were praying for him and his family. In late June 2017, Steve received a message through Facebook from Erin Stoffel, a woman well known in his Wisconsin hometown for suffering an immense tragedy of her own. Erin had lost her husband and eldest daughter in a shooting incident in 2015. Erin's message to Steve was simple. "Hey Steve, you don't know me, but I'm praying for you and your boys." Like Steve, Erin met her husband, John, in high school. They attended Bible college in California together and married young. The couple welcomed their first daughter, Olivia, when Erin was only 19. Later, a son and second daughter followed, Ezra, now 15, and Selah, 12. On May 3, 2015, Erin and John took advantage of a pleasant day and took their 3 kids on a walk across Menasha's 1,600-foot Trestle Trail Bridge. After a shooting incident at that bridge, Erin lost her husband John and daughter Olivia and was severely hurt. She was immediately transported to the hospital and had to undergo immediate surgery to stop the bleeding. She had tubes in her mouth when she woke up after the surgery. She couldn't talk, and the only way she could communicate with everyone was to write on a piece of paper. She asked about John and Olivia. The family had to confirm that both of them were gone. John was 33 when he died, and Olivia was 11. When Steve received Erin's comforting message after losing Wendy, he was moved by her selflessness. He asked many questions about how to cope after such a loss. Eventually, the pair grew close. The pair met in person for the first time in July 2017 at the Christian music festival Life Fest. They spent hours walking and talking, sharing their lives. As their friendship developed, Steve felt that Erin was just trying to help him, but Erin confided that Steve had helped her heal too. They found their kids could similarly support each other. They don't have other friends or kids their age who have been through something like this. Suddenly, now they have each other, Steve said. When Erin felt ready, Steve accompanied her back to the Trestle Trail Bridge to make peace with her loss. It was very hard, but we felt like we could do things like that with each other, he said. Both of us believe it was God that brought us together. They turned to friends to seek advice about blending families before getting engaged in April 2018, and 2 months later, they got married. Describing their wedding day, Steve said, "It was beautiful. I just felt so blessed to have all these families around us, supporting us, and they were all there. It was a really unique experience. When I got married to Wendy in 2004, that was for life. I never thought I'd get married again. But that's not the story God has. He works for the good of those who love Him." Together, Steve and Erin want to share their stories to bring glory to God, comfort those in grief, and encourage others that hope can be found.